Okay, warmly welcome, dear colleagues. Very happy to see many of you for our third dialogue this year. We are in the ICH Tourism Dialogue Series, an initiative of the ICH NGO Forum of Accredited NGOs for the UNESCO 2003 Convention. A few years ago, we developed a web dossier on living heritage and sustainable tourism. And starting from there, we decided to continue the dialogue, to have a space where we can meet with researchers, with tourism actors, with policymakers, and to see how we can collaborate and how we can take things forward jointly, and to learn from each other, but also to create spaces where we can move forward and shared initiatives. We've had a wonderful series, and you can find all of the reports and the recordings online. Later on, we can maybe share in the chat for those who wish to find them. We recently also put the latest two recordings and reports online. And we're very happy that Noël Salazar is joining us for the last dialogue in 2025. Noël is, for me personally, a very valued colleague, and has a long curriculum or expertise and journey already in the topic of living heritage and tourism. And he already in 2012, as one of the early colleagues, presented together with the UNWTO, the tourism organization, a global study on the links between tourism and living heritage. So long before our initiatives were emerging, studying in an extensive compendium with case studies and good practices what was happening there and what could be the future. So it's a great opportunity today, building on the research that Noël has been doing over the years and since that very period, to see what are the trends, what has happened since, and how does Noël see the future of ICH-related tourism in challenging times, I might say, today, and also to have some critical reflection, because today we will be speaking with a researcher on the subject, which keeps us all sharp as well. So I happily open the floor for Noël. We will first have the presentation, as always, which will be recorded. Afterwards, we will stop the recording. And we have like a space where we can have an open exchange and reflections and questions. So enjoy. Noël, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jorijn. Thank you for this generous introduction and also for inviting me and giving me the opportunity not just to present, but to dialogue with all of you. So I'm looking very much forward to do that. Let me first see if I can share the screen. It should be popping up right now. Yeah. Okay. So what I will try to do is in the first half of our meeting to sketch a little bit what Jorijn just said. And then afterwards, I will put some things maybe bluntly or in a provocative way, but it's also meant to then have a nicer discussion afterwards. So as a socio-cultural anthropologist, I've been conducting research on the intersection of heritage and tourism since the early 2000s. This coincides with the institutionalization of intangible cultural heritage in the 2003 UNESCO Convention. The integration of ICH, and tourism presents a complex terrain fraught with both immense opportunities, but also significant risks. Since the turn of the millennium, significant shifts have occurred, marked by both commendable progress and, as we will see, also persistent challenges. In 2012, as Jorijn just mentioned, UNWTO presented a seminal global study on the links between tourism and ICH, one of the many outcomes of the continuous and evolving partnership with UNESCO to give culture the prominent place it deserves in tourism development, strategies and projects. Through an extensive compendium of case studies and good practices drawn from across 5 continents, partially compiled by me, who was the participating anthropologist, the study offered in-depth information on an analysis of government-led actions, public-private partnerships, and grassroots community initiatives. This foundational report meticulously explored the major challenges at that time, inherent risks, and promising opportunities associated with developing tourism around ICH. It also proposed practical steps for the creation and marketing of ICH-based tourism products, offering a strategic roadmap for stakeholders. It recognized already then the fragility of ICH and the fact that true partnerships between communities and the tourism and heritage sectors can occur only if all sides develop an appreciation for each other's aspirations and values. This established a necessary ethical and practical benchmark, emphasizing mutual respect and understanding as prerequisites for sustainable engagement. But this was 2012, we are 2025, so a lot has changed since then. So more than 50 years have passed since the research on which the landmark study was based. In the intervening years, the tourism landscape has undergone significant transformations, influenced by technological advancements, evolving demands, and a heightened awareness of sustainability and ethical considerations. Moreover, there has been an evolution in the policy, practice, and safeguarding efforts concerning the relationship between tourism and ICH. Hundreds of elements have been inscribed on UNESCO's ICH list. By 2025, there are almost 800 practices in 150 countries recognized as living heritage. This expansion and record attendance at UNESCO safeguarding meetings, which also have skyrocketed, reflects a growing importance attached to ICH. Interest in living heritage as a driver of tourism has grown markedly. Cultural tourism as a whole now features in about 90% of national tourism policies, with most explicitly including both tangible and intangible heritage. Governments around the globe increasingly align heritage and tourism. For example, China's Culture and Tourism Ministry in 2023 has called for an integration of intangible cultural heritage and tourism in a wider range, deeper level and higher level. The UNESCO World Heritage and Cultural Tourism programs have similarly promoted ICH festivals, crafts, and cuisines and destination planning. In short, ICH has become mainstream in cultural tourism discourse worldwide. So what are the key trends and dynamics shaping this relation between ICH and tourism? I would argue that several broader thematic trends characterize this evolving relationship, and in what follows I will offer a very brief overview that then afterwards, of course, we can unpack and discuss a little bit more. So first of all, shifts in policy and governance. In the 2012 study, there were already some broad recommendations urging stakeholders to foster the sustainable and responsible development of tourism by incorporating and safeguarding ICH. But since then, there has been a discernible progression from these general recommendations to the development of far more targeted and operational policy frameworks. This transition, I would argue, reflects a growing understanding of the complexities involved and a commitment to translating principles into actionable guidelines. Furthermore, while the 2012 report implicitly linked ICH to sustainable development, the past decade has seen a more explicit and integrated approach. ICH tourism is now increasingly aligned with broader global sustainable development goals, particularly the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. This integration implies a more holistic approach to policymaking that considers environmental, social, and economic dimensions in a comprehensive manner, moving beyond isolated cultural or economic objectives. 2, the empowering of communities and indigenous peoples. A profound transformation is the significant shift from merely consulting communities to actively empowering them as primary drivers of tourism entrepreneurship. This includes providing specific guidance to tourism stakeholders to ensure their operations are conducted responsibly within communities that express a desire to develop tourism initiatives. This represents a critical transition from a model where communities were often passive recipients or subjects of tourism to one where they are recognized now as more active agents. A key trend in this empowerment is a transition from assisting towards enabling indigenous entrepreneurship. This is coupled with a strong focus on strengthening skills and building capacities at a local level. Such initiatives clearly address the imperative for communities to set the limits of tourism development and ensure that tourism contributes to improving their livelihoods. Traditionally, cultural tourism often operated on a tourism to communities model, where external entities such as tour operators or government bodies brought tourists to experience local culture, with communities frequently serving as passive hosts or attractions. The current trend, however, indicates a decisive move towards a tourism by communities model. In this evolved framework, communities are no longer solely beneficiaries or subjects of tourism. They are active initiators, developers, managers, and decision makers. They define the terms of engagement, protect their resources, and ensure direct benefits. This is a crucial step towards realizing true partnerships and mutual appreciation envisioned in the 2012 report by placing agency and control squarely within the ICH holding communities. Such a shift is essential for the long-term sustainability, ethical integrity, and cultural relevance of ICH tourism, as it aligns economic development with community well-being and cultural vitality, ensuring that tourism serves community aspirations rather than dictating them. And so these trends that I'm indicating, of course, are very broad trends. For every trend that I'm mentioning, I could, and you could for sure mention counter examples where this is not or not yet happening. Despite these advancements, the experience of the past decade reveals a complex reality, often described as a double-edged sword. While partnerships offer substantial opportunities for promoting cultural tourism, developing educational initiatives, and sustaining heritage, they also present significant pitfalls. Research indicates that even projects specifically designed for safeguarding ICH can inadvertently lead to various forms of inequity and turning heritage into a commodity. Let me move on now to a third trend, which is actually a combination of different things which are also related somehow to one another. The role of education, capacity building, and related to that, digital transformation. Education and capacity building have become central pillars in strengthening the relationship between tourism and ICH. Many of UNESCO's regional projects exemplify this commitment, demonstrating a structured approach to building knowledge and skills within both government institutions and civil society. These initiatives aim to establish sustainable frameworks for safeguarding intangible cultural heritage, providing comprehensive training for regional experts and developing adaptable toolkits tailored to specific local contexts. This systematic approach ensures that safeguarding efforts are robust and locally relevant. There are growing initiatives to integrate ICH into both formal and informal forms of education, so that tourists and policymakers recognize the value of living traditions. Campaigns like UNESCO's Living Heritage exhibitions or the International Day of Intangible Cultural Heritage raise awareness that culture is not only in museums, but in people's daily lives. Encouraging younger generations to engage with and interpret ICH can help keep traditions alive and relevant. A particularly notable development in recent years is the emphasis on fostering digital literacy. This acknowledges the increasingly vital role of technology in the promoting, marketing, and overall management of cultural tourism products. Digital platforms offer unprecedented reach and efficiency, allowing communities to connect directly with potential visitors. Furthermore, the importance of sharing of knowledge, culture, and heritage studies through various disciplines highlights a more integrated and holistic approach to understanding and managing ICH. Such an interdisciplinary perspective moves beyond traditional academic and sectoral silos, fostering a richer understanding of cultural dynamics. While digital literacy and access empower communities by enabling direct marketing, booking, and storytelling, potentially increasing their share of benefits and control over the narrative, this increased digital presence also exposes heritage to a global audience in unprecedented ways. This heightened visibility, while offering opportunities for broader appreciation and education, simultaneously carries amplified risks of misrepresentation, cultural appropriation, over-tourism, or the trivialization of sacred practices if not carefully managed. The digital realm can both amplify community voices and create new pressures on cultural authenticity and privacy. Therefore, the digital frontier presents both opportunities for global reach and direct engagement, but also necessitates robust digital governance strategies, intellectual property protection, and advanced capacity building to ensure that communities retain control over their digital narrative and the presentation of their ICH, mitigating potential harms. Technology and innovation offer both opportunities and caveats. Virtual tours, interactive apps, or live-streamed festivals can complement in-person tourism, but must be developed in dialogue with communities to avoid the issues mentioned just above. The coronavirus pandemic accelerated what has already been a trend towards digital ICH. Recent research notes that COVID-19 sped up the merging of traditional ICH with virtual digital technologies such as 3D imaging, VR, and AI, enabling heritage to overcome time and space constraints and enter new tourism and entertainment domains. Digital tools like 3D modeling, virtual tools, and mobile storytelling apps are being used to document and share ICH, making it more accessible while aiding preservation. For example, augmented reality tours of intangible traditions or video game depictions of folktales have brought ICH to wider audiences. Yet the shift also raises issues. Scholars warn of a technological dilemma, balancing immersive digital experiences against authenticity and accessibility. In short, the pandemic underscored the need for tourism that can flexibly support ICH, such as online cultural tourism markets, while at the same time also the ongoing need to safeguard ICH's core values. Next, the clear trend towards sustainability and responsibility. The Cultural Heritage Counts for Europe report, which was published in 2015, demonstrated the role of heritage as a resource for sustainable development. The discourse around sustainability in ICH tourism too has matured significantly. Crucially, the past decade has seen a heightened awareness and explicit identification of the negative consequences of unchecked tourism development. The explicit reflections on turning heritage into a commodity and creating various forms of inequity as pitfalls demonstrates a more critical and self-reflective stance within the sector. The understanding of sustainability in ICH tourism has evolved from a general, often environmentally focused aspirational goal in 2012 to a critical, multifaceted imperative. It now encompasses not just ecological and economic viability, but also profound ethical considerations regarding social justice, equitable benefit sharing, and the active prevention of cultural commodification. The explicit acknowledgement of pitfalls means that sustainability is no longer just about doing less harm or achieving net positive economic impact, but about actively ensuring that tourism contributes positively to community well-being and cultural vitality, confronting power imbalances and ethical dilemmas head-on. This signifies a more mature and responsible approach to integrating ICH and tourism, moving from broad principles to specific actionable guidelines that confront the inherent tensions between economic development and cultural preservation, demanding greater accountability from all stakeholders. A chief concern in terms of sustainability remains over-commercialization, treating sacred dances, rituals, or crafts purely as tourism spectacles, which of course dilutes their meaning. UNESCO warns that taking ICH practices out of context for tourism purposes may change them over time. Economically, large tour operators or investors often capture most gains, leaving local communities with little benefit. An excessive reliance on tourism can create one-dimensional economies and even hasten cultural loss if authentic practices are supplanted by standardized shows. Crowding and over-tourism in heritage-rich areas have strained local capacities and sometimes disrupted existing ceremonies. As UNESCO notes, rapid tourism growth without planning can pressure sites, generate waste, and erode the quality of life. Indeed, critiques have grown of folklorization, the freezing of living tradition into staged performance, and of cultural appropriation by outsiders. In response, research stresses the need for respectful, community-led models, higher local participation in heritage projects, directly increasing community awareness and commitment to safeguarding traditions. Ensuring authentic partnerships, whereby communities control how their heritage is presented and benefit fairly, is a central lesson of the past decade, and a lesson that is still being learned. The challenge of commodification is not to eliminate it, but to manage it strategically and ethically. Recognizing that some forms of commercial adaptation may be necessary for cultural survival in changing societal contexts, future efforts should focus on models that empower communities to control the terms of their engagement with tourism. This involves ensuring that tourism benefits are shared equitably among local stakeholders, with practitioners directly benefiting economically. Encouraging locally owned tourism businesses and supporting the sale of ICH-related goods through official and fair outlets are practical steps. The debate must move beyond a simple positive or negative binary to examine how communities strategically articulate their heritage for tourism, leveraging it as a resource for pride, identity, and even political agency. And I'm constantly talking here about communities, but of course we also need to unpack the concept of communities, because the communities never speak with one voice. So that's of course an added complexity that we need to take into account. The COVID-19 crisis dramatically illustrated both vulnerabilities and adaptive potential in ICH tourism. International travel all but halted, leaving many cultural festivals and performances cancelled and hospitality workers unemployed. UNESCO Service collected hundreds of reports of hardship and ingenuity from around the world. Traditional practitioners adapted by moving activities online or to family units. Virtual dance lessons, live-streamed ceremonies, and local community workshops proliferated. As UNESCO observes, the lockdowns reminded us that we cannot thrive without the practices we inherited. Living heritage itself became an important source of resilience. So it's moving quickly because we are already heading for the future now. Over the past few decades, we have seen a world marked by simultaneous crises: the climate emergency, socio-economic disparities, political turbulence, and the erosion of cultural practices. Together, these phenomena create what is now referred to as a polycrisis. Polycrisis, a term introduced by philosopher Edgar Morin, stresses how the interplay of multiple crises, including social, economic, and environmental ones, can create a complex and interconnected web of challenges, making it quite hard to manage or resolve. How does the tourism ICH nexus relate to the current context of polycrisis? After all, in times of polycrisis, the capacity of systems and policies to absorb shocks only to bounce back to pre-crisis status is not enough. Looking ahead, several themes emerge. And so the fact that I show here an illustration of a map that probably you cannot see, it's too small, but that shows these interconnections, is basically to also stress that even an entity like the World Economic Forum, that used to have a very narrow focus, also recognizes these complexities and these interconnections. So I think that's quite telling. So the themes that are emerging are multiple. One of the themes is this continuation of community-driven stewardship. So community empowerment remains key. Tourism programs must build on participatory models so that ICH and tourism projects stay in the hands of its bearers, retaining control over how their heritage is presented and shared, prioritizing local narratives and equitable benefit sharing. Tourism planning must center rights and local agency, not just economics. This means actively involving communities, including youth and marginalized groups, in decision-making, in line with the ICOMOS 2022 International Cultural Heritage Tourism Chapter, which includes, and this is very interesting, multiple direct references to ICH. And I mentioned this explicitly to also show that bodies like ICOMOS, that used to have a very clear mandate focused on material heritage, that also these bodies increasingly recognize the fact that it's very difficult to keep these strict binaries between intangible heritage and material heritage, and particularly also when it comes to managing them in the context of tourism. Participatory inventorying and impact assessments can help communities weigh the costs and benefits of tourism of their ICH. Future tourism must prioritize ethical engagement with communities, ensuring fair compensation, cultural sensitivity, and shared decision-making. This means actively addressing the power asymmetries and disconnects that often exist between international policy, national implementation, and grassroots realities. Future initiatives must prioritize genuine consultation with local practitioners, ensuring their voices are heard and their perspectives are central to all tourism development and safeguarding efforts. And this includes a whole lot of elements, among which anticipated impact assessments, so proactively assessing the potential impacts of tourism on ICH elements, including economic, social, and environmental dimensions, with community input. It also includes capacity building, investing in the capacity and confidence building of communities, enabling them to manage their heritage and engage with tourism on their own terms. It includes ethical codes and intellectual property, so developing ethical codes for ICH tourism and protecting the intellectual property rights of communities regarding their cultural products and practices. And it includes negotiating what in the literature is called the limits of acceptable change, fostering dialogue between communities, tourism, and heritage sectors to define and respect those limits, the limits of acceptable change for ICH practices, ensuring cultural appropriateness and sustainability. So this involves negotiating local space versus tourism or tourist space with sensitivity. Then there is the ongoing element. This will never disappear when we talk about heritage and tourism, of guarding authenticity, which is a very fraught concept. So future approaches to ICH tourism must fully embrace the dynamic and culturally relative nature of authenticity. This means moving beyond the expectation of a pristine or unchanging cultural experience for tourists. Instead, the focus should be on supporting the ongoing vitality and evolution of ICH as defined and practiced by the communities themselves. This requires a shift in mindset for both tourism operators and tourists themselves, encouraging an appreciation for the living, adaptive qualities of heritage, rather than a search for a static, idealized past. Ethnographic research can play a vital role here, providing nuanced understandings of how communities themselves interpret and recreate their heritage in contemporary contexts. Balance and authenticity are crucial. Policymakers and tourism sector should guard against simply packaging heritage for visitors. Instead, immersive experience tourism should enhance, not undermine, the integrity of practices. Tourism impact should also be monitored so that rituals and traditions are not folklorized or diluted. Training in ethical interpretation and participatory visitor programs can be of help here. The pursuit of authenticity in tourism must be reoriented to prioritize the perspectives and well-being of the culture bearers over external tourist demands. This will help prevent the alienation of communities and ensure that cultural practices are presented in ways that maintain their integrity and meaning for those who live them. Synthesizing the insights gleaned from the past decades, several strategic imperatives emerge for shaping a more harmonious, equitable, and sustainable future for the relationship between tourism and ICH. And these include, among others, fostering a genuine mutual appreciation. Future efforts must transcend superficial cultural exchange to cultivate deeper understanding and respect between tourist operators and ICH holding communities. This necessitates promoting immersive, respectful experiences that prioritize cultural learning and meaningful engagement over mere consumption of cultural performances or products. Empowering communities to control their own narratives and the interpretation of their ICH is crucial. This involves providing visitors with essential information prior to their visits and ensuring that guides act as authentic brokers, promoting indigenous culture in a way that enriches the visitor experience while upholding heritage integrity. Furthermore, strategies must actively mitigate the risk of inequity and commodification by implementing fair benefit sharing mechanisms, upholding communities' rights to self-determination in tourism development, and establishing robust ethical guidelines for cultural engagement. And there are, of course, around the world, many examples that could be given that illustrate that this is indeed all possible. Next is strengthening governance and adaptive policy frameworks. Given the dynamic and evolving nature of both ICH and the tourism sector, future policies must be inherently adaptive and responsive to emerging challenges and opportunities. This requires continuous monitoring and evaluation of existing frameworks, incorporating lessons learned from both successes and pitfalls. Robust governance demands effective collaboration among all stakeholders, public administrations, tourism operators, communities, and heritage experts. Mechanisms for accountability must be strengthened to ensure that all parties adhere to principles of sustainability, equity, and cultural sensitivity. Crucially, policies must explicitly address the identified pitfalls and ensuring that economic benefits derived from tourism do not come at the expense of cultural integrity or community well-being. Then next, and this is something that we have become really very much aware of thanks to COVID-19, is investing in resilience and local capacity. Continued and sustained investment in knowledge and skills development for government institutions and civil society organizations is crucial for building sustainable frameworks for safeguarding ICH. This includes comprehensive programs for training local experts, fostering intergenerational knowledge transfer within communities, and empowering local communities to effectively manage their own heritage and tourism initiatives. Supporting such initiatives and the ones that actively engage younger generations and cultural practices and foster interdisciplinary approaches to ICH will ensure that the living nature of ICH is sustained and adapted for future contexts, thereby promoting its vitality and relevance. And finally, while tourism offers significant economic opportunities, it is, of course, crucial to support diversified livelihoods within ICH holding communities. This reduces the over-reliance on tourism, enhancing resilience against market fluctuations, unforeseen crises, or the potential negative impacts of over-tourism. Resilience to crisis, which can be related to health, climate, or economic issues, is now part of the equation. The COVID-19 crisis dramatically illustrated both vulnerabilities and adaptive potential in ICH tourism. And this is something that has really accelerated, I think, lots of the processes that we now see are in the pipeline. One of the things I think we have learned from COVID-19 is to build more diverse local economies around ICH. by combining different types of tourism and by certainly avoiding tourism dependency. Valuing ICH knowledge that bolsters social cohesion and climate adaptation is another thing that we have learned, and the fact that heritage preservation must be integrated into climate resilience planning, especially for coastal and indigenous communities. And then related to that is a focus on what in the literature is called planetary health. So since the beginning of the 21st century, several studies have analyzed the effects of heritage on health and well-being. It can affect the social determinants of health and sense of belonging, including social cohesion and social inequalities and inequities. Heritage can help to prevent ill health, helping people experiencing mental illness, support care for people with acute conditions, and assist with the management of non-communicable diseases. Apart from contributing to mental, emotional, and physical health, heritage can also stimulate people's well-being in other ways by contributing to their sense of continuity and belonging, as well as cultural understanding and tolerance. Importantly, heritage also fosters community building by strengthening intergenerational bonds, creating economic opportunities, encouraging civic engagement, and promoting diversity. And all these aspects are receiving increasingly attention. The report Places That Make Us, which was published in 2017, demonstrates that heritage, by aligning significant places with memory, contributes to well-being. This is echoed in a special Eurobarometer, also in 2017, in which people acknowledge the contribution of heritage to the quality of life. Many other studies have demonstrated the potential of heritage objects as tool to improve well-being, including in tourism. In the tourism world itself, a drastic shift is happening that is best summarized in the document that I also mentioned here, Travel to Tomorrow, elaborated by Tourism Flanders in Belgium. It acknowledges that heritage contributes to the making of flourishing communities involving visitors, entrepreneurs, residents, and caretakers. The particular role of ICH and ICH tourism in all of this urgently needs to be further researched, also in order to understand what the role is of ICH in all of this. And I'm slowly coming to some lengthy concluding thoughts. That's why I'm introducing them here already. The relationship between tourism and ICH has undergone a significant transformation since UNWTO seminal 2012 study. We have seen commendable progress, particularly in the realm of community empowerment, the development of more equitable partnerships, and the refinement of policy frameworks that increasingly prioritize self-determination and holistic sustainability. Capacity building efforts are slowly becoming more systematic, equipping communities and institutions with the tools necessary for effective safeguarding. However, this evolution has also brought to light persistent and emerging challenges. The inherent fragility of ICH remains a fundamental concern, now compounded by intensified risks of commodification and the potential for various forms of inequity within tourism engagements. The rapid advancement of digital technologies presents a complex landscape, offering unprecedented opportunities for global reach and direct community engagement, yet simultaneously demanding new strategies for digital safeguarding and the assertion of digital sovereignty by ICH holding communities. And maybe in the discussion we can also talk about artificial intelligence, which is next on the horizon and will undoubtedly also have a huge impact on ICH and on ICH tourism. ICH tourism is recognized as a significant means of promoting ICH revival and sustainable development. Some types of ICH can be revived by introducing tourism to communities. Others may need the support of specific initiatives, particularly to encourage local interest in maintaining and transmitting cultural practices and knowledge, such as documenting ICH. The knowledge transfer process that involves tourist and tourism activities can be justified as a way to safeguard the ICH's long-term existence. Indeed, tourism, not just as a marketplace, but as an active learning environment, plays a vital role in transferring intangible heritage across generations. Achieving a truly harmonious and sustainable future for tourism and ICH requires continued vigilance and adaptive policy making. It hinges on fostering genuine mutual appreciation, rooted in a deep respect for each other's aspirations and values, as was initially also articulated in the 2012 report. An unwavering commitment to empowering ICH holding communities as the primary custodians and beneficiaries of their heritage is paramount. When managed with integrity, foresight, and a profound respect for the living heritage it seeks to share, tourism holds, I would argue, an immense potential to be a powerful force for cultural vitality, intergenerational transmission, and sustainable development, enriching both visitors and host communities alike. So ICH and tourism are not inherently at odds, but their relationship must be very carefully negotiated. Stronger cross-sectoral partnerships between tourism, education, technology, and cultural sectors will be key to sustainable ICH tourism. Tourism is not inherently good or bad for living heritage. Its impacts depend on the structures around it. Going forward, the challenge is to foster sustainable, equitable tourism that enhances living heritage, ensuring that economic benefits and cultural vitality go hand in hand. So the future of ICH tourism lies in these genuine partnerships, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to the well-being of the cultural bearers. Successful ICH tourism in today's reality of polycrisis will demand absorptive and adaptive resilience capacities, alongside transformative, preventive, anticipatory, collaborative, and participatory capacities. So that's a whole mouthful. The possibility for a comprehensive transformation of the tourism system remains extremely limited without a fundamental transformation of the entire planet. So the challenges that lie ahead of us are quite daunting. Let us therefore embrace transformative resilience, not only as a concept, but as a call to action. Transformative resilience challenges the status quo, as the changes invariably lead to a permanent disruption of the values, beliefs, institutions, and assumptions that were communally and formally embraced, moving beyond vulnerability thresholds. Such a response aligns the long-term goals of transition with the short-term needs of resilience by taking shocks as an opportunity for systematic and systemic transformation, which is both resilient and sustainable. In other words, system transformations, or system transitions better, are resilient if they can cope with a shock so successfully that they can also accelerate transformation. And during COVID, we have seen how in certain cases this has worked, and in other cases it hasn't. The concept of transformative resilience captures the deliberative pursuit of sustainability transitions in times of shocks, crisis, or stress. The future challenge of ICH tourism will thus be linked to the dynamic interplay between sustainability and resilience. So it's not one or the other, but it will be both. The social sciences have a keynote and a key role to play here in multiple ways. First, given the size and importance of global tourism, we urgently need more in-depth research, particularly in the domain of mass tourism, to complement the plethora of research on more exceptional small-scale projects and products. The knowledge and insights these studies produce need to be widely shared, both inside and outside of academia. Second, scholars must become more actively involved in the various steps of sustainable tourism planning and development. A comprehensive approach can help policymakers as well as tourism planners and managers to pay equal attention to the social, environmental, and economic aspects of sustainability. Finally, I would argue it is high time for mainstream social sciences, and I include myself here as part of that, to become aware of the important role that its knowledge production has historically played and is still playing in shaping tourism imaginaries, and to reflect on what the proper reaction to this would be. Anthropology, which is my discipline, in particular offers tools to understand and mediate this relationship in ways that center community voices and values. For the challenges of our era, climate change, globalization, social inequality, and many more, ICH tourism can be both a symptom and a solution. Guided by anthropological insights, we can steer it towards supporting cultural diversity, community resilience, and planetary sustainability. For the near future, navigating the digital frontier with ethical foresight, strengthening adaptive governance, and investing in community resilience are paramount to ensuring tourism serves as a powerful, respectful, and sustainable force for cultural vitality and intergenerational transmission. So I've given myself, but also all of you here, I think, a huge task, and I will stop here.
Thank you so much, Noel. And I will give Ocean the time to stop the recording. Okay.